Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Steady English Stories. Close your eyes for a moment, my friend. Imagine it's a summer day in the year 1902. You are standing inside a printing factory in Brooklyn, New York. The air is thick and wet. You can feel it on your skin, heavy like a warm, damp blanket. Around you, giant printing machines are running, pressing colorful pictures onto sheet after sheet of paper. But something is wrong. The colors on the paper don't line up. The edges of the paper are wavy, not flat. The machines keep jamming. That means they keep stopping, stuck, because the paper won't move smoothly through them. Now here is our mystery for today, my friend. How did one quiet young engineer, just 25 years old, earning very little money, solve a problem that no one else could solve? And how did his invention, made only to fix paper in a factory, go on to change the way the entire world lives, works, and even builds its cities? This, my friends, is the story of Willis Carrier, the man history now calls the father of air conditioning. Before we continue, let me ask you something small. If a story like this, full of struggle, surprise, and real history, helps you learn English, please subscribe to this channel. It costs you nothing, and it helps us keep telling these stories slowly and clearly for you. Now, my friend, let's go back to where it all began. Willis Carrier was born on November 26, 1876, in a small town called Angola in New York State. His family lived on a dairy farm. A dairy farm is a farm where people keep cows to produce milk. Life there was simple, and it was hard. Willis was an only child. That means he had no brothers or sisters, and from a young age, he worked. He fed animals. He fixed broken tools. He helped his parents survive, season after season, on land that did not give up its rewards easily. Do you think a boy from a small dairy farm dreams of changing the world? Probably not. Most days, young Willis was simply thinking about chores, about school, about helping his family make it through the week. But even then, something in him was different. He was curious. He liked to understand how things worked, not just use them, but understand them, take them apart in his mind. His hard work at school earned him something precious, a scholarship. A scholarship means money given to a student so they can study because they showed they deserve it. With this scholarship, Willis was able to attend Cornell University, one of the finest schools in America. Think about that, my friend, a farm boy, walking into the halls of a great university, surrounded by other bright young minds. He must have felt both proud and a little afraid. Have you ever felt that mix of feelings, stepping into a place you worked so hard to reach? At Cornell, Willis studied mechanical engineering. A mechanical engineer is someone trained to design and build machines, engines, tools, systems that move and work. In 1901, he graduated. He was ready for the world. But the world, at first, did not offer him anything glamorous. He took a modest job at a company called Buffalo Forge, a business that made simple industrial equipment, heaters, fans, and forges, which are furnaces used to shape metal. His pay, some records say, was only about $10 a week. Not a fortune, not a promise of fame, just a young engineer doing steady, unglamorous work. But here is something you should remember about this story, my friend. Greatness rarely arrives wearing a sign that says this is important. It usually arrives quietly, disguised as an ordinary Tuesday. In the spring of 1902, a problem landed on Buffalo Forge's desk, a problem that had nothing to do with air or comfort or cooling. It came from a company called Sackett and Wilhelms, a printing business in Brooklyn. Their presses printed beautiful, multicolored pictures, but the humidity in the factory kept ruining the paper. Humidity means the amount of water vapor in the air. When the air was too wet, the paper would stretch. When it was drier, the paper would shrink. Each color, printed on a slightly different size of paper, no longer lined up correctly. The pictures came out blurred, uneven, useless. A consulting engineer named Walter Timmis brought this problem to a man at Buffalo Forge named J. Irvine Lyle, who ran the company's sales work in New York. Lyle had a gift. He was good at recognizing talent in people. And when he thought about who could solve this strange, difficult puzzle of humidity and paper, one name came to his mind: young Willis Carrier. Why him? Why a 25-year-old, fresh out of university, with no famous inventions to his name? Nobody at Buffalo Forge had ever built a machine to precisely control humidity before. This was not a small repair job. This was something new, something nobody had truly attempted. Carrier accepted the challenge anyway, and he began testing, measuring, and thinking in ways that would soon surprise everyone around him. Could this quiet farm boy, now standing at the edge of an entirely unsolved problem, actually find the answer? So there stood young Willis Carrier, facing a problem that no engineer before him had truly solved. How do you control the exact amount of moisture in the air of a working factory? He didn't rush to guess an answer. Instead, he did something patient and careful, something that would define his whole career. He began to test. His very first experiment was almost humble in a way. He used a roller towel made of loosely woven burlap, a rough, simple cloth, and soaked it in a solution of calcium chloride, a chemical that absorbs moisture from the air. He was searching for a way to pull water vapor out of the air, and to do it in a way he could measure and control precisely. Do you see what made Carrier different, my friend? Many engineers before him had tried to cool air or dry air in rough, uneven ways. But Carrier wanted something more exact, a science of it, not just a guess. He studied something called the dew point, which is the exact temperature at which moisture in the air turns into liquid water, like the dews see on grass in the early morning. If he could control the dew point, he could control humidity itself, precisely on command. Weeks passed. Carrier tested, adjusted, and tested again. And then, on July 17, 1902, he finalized a set of mechanical drawings, that means detailed technical plans for building a machine. This machine would cool air, pull the right amount of moisture out of it, and send it back into the factory at a controlled, steady level. It was installed that same summer at the Sackett and Wilhelms printing plant in Brooklyn, and it worked. The paper stopped stretching and shrinking. The colors lined up perfectly. The machines stopped jamming. A young engineer, earning perhaps $10 a week, had just built what historians now call the world's first modern air conditioning system. Now, here is something important for you to notice, my friend, because it connects to something we all deal with in life. Carrier was not trying to invent comfort. He was not dreaming of cool bedrooms or comfortable offices. His entire goal was to fix ink and paper. Isn't it strange how often the biggest changes in history begin as narrow, practical solutions to small, unglamorous problems? Have you ever solved a small problem in your own life, only to discover later that the solution mattered far more than you expected? Word of Carrier's success spread slowly at first, factory by factory, industry by industry. Textile mills, factories that make cloth and fabric, soon adopted his humidity control systems too, because thread and fabric are also sensitive to moisture in the air. In 1906, Carrier received an official patent for his invention, which he called an apparatus for treating air. A patent is a legal document that protects an inventor's idea, so others cannot copy it without permission. By 1907, Carrier had made his first international sale, shipping his system all the way to a silk company in Yokohama, Japan. Think about that, my friend. A farm boy from Angola, New York, whose machine was now crossing oceans. In 1911, Carrier presented a scientific paper with a long, formal name, Rational Psychrometric Formulae, in simple words. This paper laid out the mathematical rules for how air, temperature, and humidity behave together. It became the foundation that engineers still use today when designing air conditioning and climate control systems. This was the moment Carrier moved from being a clever problem solver to becoming a true pioneer of an entire new science. By 1915, Carrier and several partners started their own company, one that still exists today. The invention that began in a damp Brooklyn printing plant was now becoming an industry of its own. But every rise, my friend, carries its own cost, its own complication. Life had already tested Carrier once, in a way that had nothing to do with machines or patents. In 1912, his wife, Claire, died from a disease called diabetes. She was only 33 years old. Carrier, the calm and steady engineer who could solve problems of air and moisture with such precision, could not solve this. Grief, unlike humidity, cannot be measured with a slide rule or corrected with a machine. And there was another kind of tension building too, quieter, but just as real. Carrier's invention had proven itself in factories, controlling humidity for paper, cloth, and industrial machines. But could it ever step outside the factory walls? Could a machine built to protect ink and thread ever be trusted to cool the air around actual human beings inside theaters, inside offices, inside the homes where people slept, cooked, and lived their daily lives? That question, whether treating air for machines could become comfort for people, was about to be tested in ways Carrier could not have fully predicted. The answer to that question, my friend, came sooner than anyone expected. In the 1920s, movie theaters across America began installing Carrier's cooling systems. Suddenly, on the hottest days of summer, cinemas became the coolest, most comfortable rooms in town. People bought tickets not only to watch a film, but simply to sit somewhere cool for a few hours. Can you imagine that, my friend? Choosing a movie based on the temperature of the room, not the story on the screen. Then, in 1928, a building called the Millam Building rose in San Antonio, Texas. It became the first skyscraper in the world, built with central air conditioning from the very start. Carrier's invention, once designed only to protect ink and paper, was now shaping entire buildings, entire cities, entire ways of living in hot climates. And in 1939, at the New York World's Fair, Carrier proudly displayed his cooling systems to enormous crowds, showing the public just how far his work had come since that damp Brooklyn printing plant. By now, my friend, do you see the shape of this man's life? A farm boy, a scholarship, a modest job, a strange humidity problem, and slowly, patiently, one invention grew into an entire industry that changed how humans experience heat itself. But success, as we've said before in this story, always carries a cost. In 1948, at the age of 71, Carrier suffered a heart attack. A heart attack is a sudden, serious problem with the heart, and it can weaken a person greatly. Carrier was forced to step back from the company he had built, to slow down after decades of restless, careful work. 2 years later, on October 7, 1950, Willis Carrier died in New York City. Carrier held more than 80 patents, 80 separate ideas, protected as his own, built one careful test at a time. He was buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery in Buffalo, not far from the farmland where he had once fed cows and fixed broken tools as a boy. In 1985, he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. That means he was formally honored permanently as one of history's great inventors. And in 1998, nearly 50 years after his death, Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people of the entire 20th century. Today, air conditioning shapes life in ways Carrier himself may never have fully imagined. It has made cities like Dubai, Singapore, and Phoenix comfortable, even livable, for millions of people. It cools hospitals, protects medicines, preserves food, and lets computers and data centers run without overheating. All of this, all of it, my friend, traces back to one 25-year-old engineer trying to stop ink from smearing on wet paper. So what can we learn from Willis Carrier's story? The first lesson is this: big change rarely announces itself. Carrier wasn't trying to invent comfort for millions of people. He was solving one small, specific, unglamorous problem, and he solved it with patience, careful testing, and precision. Sometimes, my friend, the smallest, most practical steps we take in life turn out to matter more than the big dreams we imagine. The second lesson is this: real expertise comes from testing, not guessing. Carrier didn't simply hope his idea would work. He tested it, measured it, adjusted it, again and again, until he understood it completely. That patience, that willingness to try, fail a little, and try again, is exactly what your English learning journey asks of you too, my friend. You will not master this language in one day, one video, or one lucky moment. You will master it the way Carrier mastered air itself, slowly, steadily, one honest attempt at a time, correcting small mistakes until, one day, without quite noticing the exact moment, it simply works. So keep listening, keep practicing, keep coming back, the same way Carrier kept returning to his tests, his drawings, his careful calculations, because steady effort, my friend, is what quietly changes the world. Whether you're cooling a factory or learning a new language. Now, before you go, I have a small favor to ask. If this story moved you, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. It truly helps this channel keep telling stories like this one. And I'd love to know, which invention's story should we tell next? Leave your answer in the comments below. Until next time, my friends, keep learning.